Devin Nunes now has sued Twitter.
Yes.
And
for 250 million, I think.
250 million in compensatory damages, minor punitive damages. But look, he doesn't really need the money. What he wants to do is he wants to break open the discovery.
Hey friends, thank you so very much for tuning in. I got to tell you, stay tuned. I have some big guests coming this week, some important topics to cover. Bob, first, welcome, and then I have to say a couple of housekeeping things.
Yeah, Sean, thanks for having me. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks for coming on, Bob. Guys, I want to just address something. I made a video on Monday night, guys, called Vanishing Brass. The video I pulled of that portion of the shooting from New Zealand came from Severe Anon on Twitter. I trust that guy. I trust the account. But I'm hearing reports from another YouTuber who claims to have downloaded the entire video of the entire shooting. And she emailed me today saying that she can clearly see the brass hitting the ground at that part of the video. So I decided to make it private until I can vet this out properly for myself. But there are so many anomalies, other anomalies with that mass shooting, including multiple suspects that were arrested. And now nobody's talking about that in the mainstream media. I'm going to address it all here in the near future with Oli Damagard and Cody Snodgrass, and we will keep you guys fully informed. The other thing I want to talk about is social media giant censorship. Bob, it's absolutely out of control, so much so that even Donald Trump Jr. is weighing in with op-eds and articles about it, citing his own censorship that he's experienced. And Owen Benjamin, a big new YouTuber, a comedian, was just demonetized by YouTube because they didn't like his speech. And then get this, after taking away his source of income, he got a notice from them saying they're also taking away his super chat money. Bob, that's when you do a live video stream and the people who partake can give you donations. They're taking away 2 months, the last 2 months of his super chat. That's like getting dismissed from an employer for no good reason, and then they say they're not going to pay you your last 2 months of work. It's absolutely fascist and tyrannical, Bob.
Yeah, you look, they're I think they've overplayed their hand here. I don't know if you saw the news report, but Devin Nunes now has sued Twitter.
Yes.
And
for 250 million, I think.
250 million in compensatory damages, minor punitive damages. But the more important issue here is, look, he doesn't really need the money. What he wants to do is he wants to break open the discovery.
Yes.
And once they break open discovery, they're going to find this conspiracy that's been under the surface of this inter-networked, troll network that's being funded from wherever and whoever. So he has no incentive to settle. And I think that's what we need to do that. And I don't know if you saw this morning, is that Donald Trump Sr., our president, basically said, hey, you're now shadow banning me on Facebook, my communications director. Now, I don't know who the smart people over in social media land is, but I don't know if you want to shadow ban the guy that has the Department of Justice that can start bringing antitrust and FCC complaints to the fore. And I think this is part of the pushback we're going to start seeing, I think, from the right in going into this election season, is that they're going to start probably using the executive and judicial branches now to force compliance over this out of control social media empire. Look, these guys claim to be the public square, and then they hide behind, we refuse to service whomever we choose not to allow to have service. So I think this is playing out. I think, Trump is waiting until this becomes important again, and now they're laying the groundwork. So, have hope, and I think we're going to start seeing some changes here in the whole construct. And look, social media in Europe is in big trouble. I mean, they're gonna demonetize these social media companies in Europe. California has legislation pending, basically, that says that if you're a member of social media, you have rights to profit. So I think they probably don't want this kind of visibility, but I don't think they can help themselves, Sean.
Yeah, they've taken it too far, and we know from Project Veritas, from the Facebook whistleblower who came forward and said, yes, this is exactly what they're doing. They're shadow banning people, and they have algorithms, and they use their software engineers to figure out ways to do this behind the scenes. And you're right, discovery is the most important part about that Devin Nunes lawsuit. That could be absolutely huge. Yeah, they've taken it absolutely too far, and they're actually acting illegally, Bob. I forget which statute it is, but once they start to pick and choose which videos can be on their platform and which can't, they become a curator as opposed to an aggregator. And once they become a curator, YouTube, for instance, then they are acting as a publisher, and they're responsible legally for everything that goes on their platform. This is a huge can of worms.
Yeah, and that's what Nunez is saying, is that they've now opened themselves up for libel claims and any other claims. So, they can't have one hand or the other. And you can't forget the Covington, Kentucky boys, the lawsuits they're rolling out now too. Look, social media is going to get caught up in that as well. They're just going after the big companies now, but there's no reason why that's going to stop. And those guys they're politically active as well. They know that kid will make enough money out of this whole thing. But these people they're on a mission to put some haircuts on the power of the media. And unfortunately, it takes this kind of action to get people to act responsibly. But you and I both know that the media was never really to inform us; it was always to control us. So, but now we're getting the yin and the yang. So now here comes the pushback, and look, Trump's going to be on a warpath going into this next election. He is not going to let this thing sit. Also, Texas is doing a lawsuit against and Judicial Watch against the non-citizen voting. And then there was also another thing come up where might be violation of FEC in terms of Beto O'Rourke. They suppressed felonious conduct from a journalist before the election. So there's a lot coming out. I believe good always comes out of this stuff, and I think we're going to see a lot of things come to the light of day.
Yeah, I think so too. And you mentioned the Covington Catholic lawsuit from Nick Sandman. I believe he's suing Washington Post for $250 million. And if memory serves, I should double check this before I speak, but I think they're also suing NBC News. And I listened to a gripping interview with one of the attorneys and on his team with Donald Jeffries. Guys, I highly recommend you go to Donald Jeffries' YouTube channel and listen to that interview. It's fantastic because they are eyeing all sorts of other platforms and mainstream media outlets that took part in these lies, in the slander and libel against Nick Sandman. It's a big, big story because the boy is 16 or was 16 years old, Bob, when this happened. And these idiots at the mainstream media Mockingbird platforms didn't even consider any of that before they slandered him and really wrecked his life to a large degree. They're going to have to pay for that crime.
It was CNN. They also just put a $250 million lawsuit against as well.
Yeah, CNN. That's right. Well, anyway, it's a gigantic story. We'll continue to follow that. Hey, I want to talk to you about the civil war within the Democratic Party and the very real effects it's going to have on all of us. So we'll do that. But first, do you want to explain to people how Trade Genius works just real briefly? Because I've got it, and these alerts I get on my phone every single day are the easiest ways to make money in the market, and they are really working. So
yeah. So in essence, what we do is we educate and we inform. And what we do is we trade stocks, ETFs, we trade the cryptocurrency markets, and we also trade binary options. And what we've done is we've created over 20 years an algorithm that looks at buying pressure and selling pressure, and it provides us with a filter of good high reward to risk stocks that we then share with our subscribers. And in addition to that, we also provide them a chat room and a forum which we can communicate with each other. And then we provide education, and we provide this filter also on a piece of software from TradingView that allows them to actually follow stocks that we may not be following. And in essence, what we've done is we've just created a money machine for people where we've done extremely well. Last month, I shared the results. This month, the results are even better, that we just have winning nearly every day in the market. And I provided some more background for you on some of the trades we just took. We've had a big move in the miners last month. This month, it's energy names, uranium, oil, gas. And then next month, I think after this Fed meeting, we're going to go back to seeing the miners and gold and silver move higher again. And so that's what we do. Every day we're there, and it works out really, really well for our clients. And we also offer personal coaching for people that want to have one-on-one help. And then we also have a whole education series as well. Thanks for letting me share that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll leave the link below this video, guys. And I think it's on, there's a sale running through Sunday. Is that right?
Saturday, the 23rd of March, we put a bundle special together for your listeners, Sean, so if they could take advantage of it. We pre-bundled a beginner's package, some intermediate packages, and then also people really want to have a lot of education and personal coaching. We put some packages together for that as well. And so we think we've covered it for people that want to trade cryptos, stocks, or even if they want to trade everything, we've covered that in all the bundles.
Let's do this. Let's talk about the civil war within the Democratic Party. I'm going to say one bit of good news as it pertains to those criminal Democrats, and that's the fact that Nancy Pelosi has now taken impeachment off the table. And it's good that she's showing that she's that rational, because she knows it would be a battle the American people would never stand for. It would be a distraction. And if the Democrats tried to do that to our sitting president, they would get their butts handed to them in 2020. So she's taken impeachment off the table, which leaves people like little Adam Schiff kind of swinging in the wind, chasing his own tail, because we all know he's the real criminal, and he's got the power to do all these subpoenas and continue to hassle the president. What do you make of the civil war, though, essentially going on in the Democratic Party? Because now we know that even AOC, Alexandria Cortez, is a creation. She's the result of a casting call. She's controlled by puppet masters above her who give her her talking points like the new Green Deal. It's absolute insanity.
Yeah, I think we've seen it coming with when the Federal Reserve did that 180 in December. We're like, whoa, what happened here? And I think the theme of the powers that be were, look, the Democratic Party has two wings. They have the progressive wing, and then they have the socialist wing. The progressive wing is that they just want to control everything. The socialists want to blow everything up. And they thought they probably had the socialists under control. But sometimes when you let the crazies out of the asylum, they run away. And that's what happened to them in the beginning of 2019. And you just started getting all of these bizarre comments from the newly elected Democratic congressmen or people that they put into power, and they lost control of the message. And I think it freaked out the progressive wing of the Democrats. I mean, look, I've never seen so many rich people come out in terms of trying to defend their view. And in the past, they were always like, well, taxes are good for the people. Now they're like, whoa, let's not do this. You got Gates, you got Bloomberg coming out. You have now Nancy Pelosi doing a 180. Even Adam Schiff, he had to walk back. Well, it has to be egregious and all this other stuff, because they know that if they let the socialist wing take over, they're a minority party forever. And so I think that's why we saw the change with the Federal Reserve in the U.S. And Europe is in the same boat. Europe has a war with the progressive and the populist. So they have a different civil war going on right now. And where you have the southern wing, what called the Latin belt of Europe is basically saying you're strangling us, and you got the northern belt, the Protestant belt, the Germanic belt saying you guys are just flagrant violators of anything rational. And now you got their Federal Reserve, their ECB, caught in basically a rock and a hard place. And so now everybody just decided we're just all going to just flood the world with liquidity. We're going to make the stock market look good. We're going to make people look like they're making more money. China is printing and making loans like they've never done before. Japan has not stopped. And I think the implications here is that they're trying to create social peace to keep the crazies from getting in power. And the thing about the Federal Reserve, they know one thing is how to maintain their own survival. They know if they keep progressives in power, they're in power. If the socialists take over, you just have to look no further than Venezuela or autocratic countries like Turkey, where they just intervene into the stock market, into the central reserves directly, and basically take over and just start printing money like mad and cut them out of the power base. So I think it's fascinating. I'm in one hand, I'm thrilled, and the other hand, I'm scared to death if they actually lose control of that party, because I think it would cause a pretty deep spiral in our country.
Well, I've said for a long time now that the Democrats are the party of death. They're the anti-human party. And I'll flush that out a little bit. Everybody knows that abortion on demand in the 9th month and after, if the baby survives the abortion, they're still willing to kill it, is madness. Okay, most of us can agree on that. But it goes further. If you take a look at this Green New Deal and AOC, and you take a listen to these people constantly talking about climate change and the need for carbon credits and the need to get rid of every form of energy we now use to survive, Bob. That is an anti-human agenda. That's Agenda 2030. That's UN Agenda 2030, Bill Gates, zero emissions. If they don't give us new technologies, we die. We freeze to death. I live in a northern climate. It would be hard to imagine my family surviving without natural gas or without heating oil, which we don't have to use, but many do over on the East Coast. It would be hard to imagine getting anywhere without petroleum for our vehicles. They want to take away every form of modern energy. They want to take it all away and replace it with what, Bob? I don't think they care about replacing it. I think that they want to make us serfs.
Yeah, my theme is all along is that the power elite were pissed that they lost the whole feudal concept of the Middle Ages, and they're trying to bring it back into more of a modern twist. Look, Agenda 21 was to shove us all in the cities too, so they could dilute the vote that's not in keeping with their views, and also they can physically intimidate people that would want to protest against them. But yeah, make no mistake, the Green New Deal is basically putting us back into the 1700s, and I mean it would cause absolute civil war. AOC, I agree with you. She's a construct. She's I used to be in the Marine Corps, and we used to call what she's doing a feint. That she's out there screaming and yelling and looking totally unreasonable, so that somebody more reasonable in people's eyes show up, but very much the leftist agenda. And so she's the one that's taken all the arrows for the team, so that somebody else can come in there and poo-poo her, but still advocate and execute that agenda, but with a more reasonable voice. And so I always tell people, just ignore her. Just watch the people behind the scenes and see who they're quietly lifting up. And that's the one you're going to have to be really, really afraid of. Look, in California, of all the states, California probably can go renewable. And I don't know if people know this, but I own a solar energy company for 13 years. I was in it in 2006 before all this green stuff came into being. I did it for national security reasons and for decentralization of power. I wanted to control my own electric bill. And so, but California, there's only 4 states that could possibly go totally renewable without going nuclear. And since that's off the table, there's just simply no way that 2/3 of the United States can survive a Green New Deal. Look at New York. They don't even connect the natural gas power grid into New York City or into Boston. These people pay twice as much for natural gas because politicians want to pontificate. I mean, the fact that people don't rise up on this stuff is because they simply don't know that they have more power than they do. And then we just overpay. And then what happens is the natural gas gets shipped out of the country and it goes to Europe. So it's crazy. It's not going to happen. But I just fear that what the Democrats are doing here is that they're creating these really wild things, and they're going to come back with something more reasonable, which actually still takes more control away from the people. And in California, they're in the vanguard here. 2030 or 2040, they're going to be totally renewable here, and it's going to change people's lives. And I don't think anybody understands the consequences of what's going to happen here.
Yeah, it's incrementalism and it's scope creep that we worry about with these lunatic Democrats. You're right. California is a disaster, and it's completely run and controlled by Democrats and has been for decades. Pelosi, Newsom, Getty. These are the people, the families that have controlled that country and driven it into the ground. And so there are very real ramifications for all of us when these people get in power. They can affect our money, our economy, the Fed, the election, our lives. We cannot let them get in power. But you're right. The fear is incrementalism. They ask for all of our guns, but then they'll backpedal and say, oh, we'll just take the bump stocks. Or they'll say, we want all of the ammunition, but then they'll come back and say, oh, well, we just want mags that can carry more than 10 bullets, right? It's incrementalism and a slippery slope into despotism, which is what these people want. They're despots.
And they never give up. If you notice, they don't give up. And just look at climate change. I mean, it's a proven fact that the world's not warming, and it just never stops the messaging every day. Every day I wake up, I have 40 or 50 messages on every weather event, how it's going to end the world in 12 years. And now they're sucking the kids into this thing with these school strike things, and just anything to keep the publicity going. And, but the good news is that people are rational, Sean, and that's why climate change can't get off the ground, because people simply are unwilling or unable to pay the increased energy costs. Look what's happening in France. I mean, that was just a 4 or 5 cent increase in diesel fuel prices. That sent that country over the edge. That's how little disposable income people have left in France. And you start doing that here in California, if you bump up, gas another $1 a gallon or $2 a gallon, people can't get to work, period. And it would just collapse the economy. And so, look, they're going to chase the technology companies out of here. They already chased the industrial economy out of here. This place is going to be, it's going to look like a third world country where you're going to have these really rich enclaves, and then everybody else is just going to be dirt poor. And the only way you're going to get around here is going to be by helicopter, like Brazil.
Yeah, I worry about that. What's going on in Venezuela is just so shocking. We've seen it in other parts of the world throughout history. Of course, the Weimar Republic suffered through horrific hyperinflation. Zimbabwe is on that list. Many countries are watching their currencies fall. Meanwhile, we still have it pretty good here in the United States, and I hope that continues for a very long time to come. But let's talk about precious metals, because when I had Louis Camerasano on recently from Small Gold, he made the case that gold is the thing to buy if you really want to hold a value asset that is somewhat related to real money, because silver's been completely demonetized. So he didn't make much of a case for silver. In fact, he made a case against silver. But I'd point out right now that palladium is the big story. Did you see this, Bob? The palladium panic? Bid to record highs as Putin corners the market. Palladium soared to a new record high of over $1,600 an ounce overnight. And it wasn't that long ago, Bob, you could buy palladium for $500 or $600.
Yeah, we've been trading it. And in fact, one of the trades we just completed, we just made our subscribers 22% in a month with one of the palladium ETFs. So yeah, palladium's a forerunner, Sean, of what's going to happen with gold and silver. And also, don't discount uranium and cobalt. Those are coming too, because China and India, the only way they're going to be able to provide economic growth for their countries is to go nuclear. And we have a uranium deficit. And this morning, you don't know about this because we and I were getting prepared for this call, but the president of Kazakhstan just abruptly quit. And so I don't know what's going on there, but they are the number one producer of uranium in the world. And if the Russians can get control of that uranium stock, the Russians are, they're pretty shrewd people. They control strategic metals, and now they can control the uranium markets as well. And people don't realize it too. They have a tight control over the agricultural chemical markets too. So your food, your energy, and the things that the American military needs to keep its superiority are in the hands of the Russians. And the knucklehead Democrats are trying to continue to demonize this country when they could basically control our lives. And look, and they control Europe through natural gas. So I just don't know who the bright people are in Washington make an enemy out of somebody that we're going to truly need if we're going to move forward as a successful nation.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, let's round out this conversation by circling back to the social media problem. And I want to share this with folks. While we've been having this call, Bob, I got this update from William Hall via Twitter, and he says, Sean, I have the original and your video is correct. I'm willing to send it to you, but it's a large file and I'm not tech savvy enough to do that. Send me a DM if you're interested. But as many others have already made videos. There are a lot of anomalies in that particular shooting, not only multiple shooters, which were reported early on, and multiple arrests, which were reported early on, but a couple of videos are even showing a magazine already on the ground in the mosque when the shooter originally entered. Now, how would a magazine get on the ground before he entered? So many questions. We will root out some of those answers. Bob, we'll go full circle here, and we'll talk about this social media boondoggle, which is what it is. Trump vows to investigate Facebook. You nailed it early on in the call here. It's his social media chief. President Trump on Tuesday said he will be looking into a report that his social media chief, Dan Scavino Jr., has been censored by Facebook. And here's the screenshot from Dan Scavino Jr. "You're temporarily blocked from making public comments on Facebook." And he wrote, "Dear Facebook, amazing. Why are you stopping me from replying to comments followers have left me on my own Facebook page? People have the right to know. Why are you silencing me? Please let me know. Thanks." This is such a big deal, Bob, because as happened to Donald Trump Jr., as happened to Scavino Jr., as happened to Trump himself, they're playing with fire here. These social media giants are absolutely playing with fire, and I think they're going to burn down their own houses.
And that's what's gonna cause the disruptions in the economy and in the stock market, is because of the political unrest will transfer to social unrest, will transfer into economic unrest. I mean, they have to get on top of this as soon as they can from the president on down, to put these people back into their boxes, because we're going to end up being like, look, Putin just announced that you can't criticize the government on social media. Boom. Turkey did it. Boom. Europe's done it. Boom. New Zealand said you can go to jail for 10 years to own that video. Boom. So they obviously are fearful of the people, and we need to maintain the reason why we have First Amendment rights in this country, and why that makes us a different nation than anywhere else on earth. And if we lose that, we're just like everybody else, and it's going to be a sad day.
The First Amendment is the most important thing. We have to cherish it. We have to fight for it, as does our president and our elected representatives. They are elected to represent us, and by doing that, they need to respect the thing we cherish most, which is our Bill of Rights and our Constitution, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. Bob, thank you so very much for coming back on. I'll leave the link below for Trade Genius. Is there any special coupon code or anything people need, or just click the link?
No, we just set it up for you till Saturday night, Sean. So just you have to click the link and come trade with us. You'll do really well, and you'll enjoy the process. So thanks for letting me share.
All right, Bob, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Sean. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And for real news 24/7, visit us at sgtreport.com, thephaser.com, and thelibertymill.com. God bless. Much more to come, including a piece of very big breaking news regarding 9/11 later this week. Stay tuned. God bless.
When you use Google, do you get more than one answer? Of course you do.
Yeah, of course.
Well, that's a bug. We have more bugs per second in the world.
There
because we should be able to give you the right answer just once.